Dad chooses Hawaii with his favorite daughter instead of leading me down the aisle, but he changes his mind one day before the wedding since I did this. So, I, 26F, am getting married this week, with just 5 days to go, and I'm already caught up in so much drama, all thanks to my sister and my dad. For context, my dad has been a single father for the past 10 years since my mother passed away after a long battle with cancer when I was 16. It was incredibly difficult for us, but more so for me, because that's when I realized that nobody was truly in my corner anymore. My sister, Katie, would now have free reign to lord over me. My mother had always treated us both equally, but my dad definitely had a soft spot for my sister. After my mom passed away, Katie could get away with everything, but it wasn't that easy for me. Katie, who is 2 years older than me, is easily 10 times more annoying and entitled than anyone I know. She would literally treat me like her personal servant when we were younger, and every time I protested, my dad would ask me to do what she wanted because, apparently, she was too fragile to do things for herself. That was just an act. I knew it, but my dad believed her. It didn't hurt that she had been a sickly child growing up, but as she matured, she grew out of it. Still, she liked to pretend that she was always recovering from colds or other minor illnesses just to avoid doing her chores. So I ended up doing all the work around the house while she lazed around in her room. It was incredibly annoying, but if I didn't do it, nobody else would, because my dad was always too tired after coming home from work. I didn't want to bother him, so I just took care of things. After I turned 18 and moved out for college, things got better for me because I didn't have to live with her anymore. We didn't have much contact after college, since I didn't like her and we never really got along. She wasn't just lazy, she wasn't a nice person to be around. Katie would constantly take pot shots at me, try to rile me up and be generally annoying, so I was pretty glad to be out of the house. I missed my dad for sure, but I wasn't going to sacrifice my sanity to live with my family. I know a lot of people might find it weird that I actually got along with my dad despite his blatant favoritism toward Katie, but we had a nice relationship, until recently. It wasn't like I was a doormat for him. I always protested and stood up for myself when he was being too much, and we had our fair share of fights over the years about his bias toward Katie. But at the end of the day, he was still my father, and we would eventually make up. I met my fiancée Andy in college, and after dating for almost 8 years, we finally decided to get married this year. We're in good places in our respective careers, and it just felt like the right time. I can't say the same for my sister though. Katie has been doing pretty badly lately and has moved back in with my dad. After she graduated, she lived by herself for a couple of years, but last year she quit her job to join a friend in a jewelry business. Unfortunately, it didn't exactly go well. They had done absolutely no research, weren't adequately prepared, and just jumped into it without thinking much. Naturally, it was doomed from the beginning. Not only did they burn through all the investment money that they had mostly raised from family and friends, but they were also not able to get any substantial amount out of the business. Katie had already quit her job, and after the business flopped, she had to shut it down. Since then, she has been unemployed. It's been almost 6 months, and she hasn't even bothered to start looking for another job, so she's completely relying on my dad. He was planning on retiring in a couple of years, but now I don't think that's feasible anymore, as he's supporting her. This is just one of the things we've recently fought about because I think he needs to tell her to get up and find a job. She can't just rely on her aging dad for the rest of her life and mope around because of one failed business venture. She needs to get out there and do something with her life. But my dad says she just needs some time to get over things and deal with this emotionally before committing to anything else. We have very opposing views on this topic, so we try not to talk about it as it will only lead to a fight. Besides, I got engaged just a couple of weeks after she had to shut down her business, and my dad thinks that's another reason she's so upset. Even her younger sister is doing so well in life while she can't even bring herself to get out of bed most days. I know for a fact that she's jealous of me right now because she makes sure to put it out on social media, pretending that everything awful in the world is happening to her just for attention. Every time someone responds to her posts, which definitely seem like a cry for help, she brings up how I'm doing so great and how she deserves all the success, not me. Apparently, I got it because I'm willing to manipulate and step on people to get ahead. I obviously don't do that. I am where I am because of my hard work and efforts, and she is where she is because she likes to play the victim, even though she's responsible for most of the bad things happening to her. Well, except for one. About 3 weeks ago, her cat passed away after almost 15 years. She had that cat for a really long time, and she was extremely attached to it. Naturally, when that happened, she was racked with grief, and my dad told me things were so bad that I actually started feeling bad for her. I'm not going to lie, I wanted to reach out and give her my condolences, but I didn't want to seem fake, so I just told my dad to convey my message. She had already been pretty depressed, and when her cat passed away she refused to eat for days. My dad had to literally beg her to get out of bed and try to survive. It was really pathetic, and I felt bad for both of them, but I was busy with wedding preparations since there were just a couple of weeks to go until the big day. So I decided not to involve myself too much in what was going on. I kept in touch with my dad and comforted him whenever he was upset about Katie's behavior, but that was all I could do. I didn't think this would lead to any trouble for me, but a few days ago my dad contacted me to tell me that he wouldn't be able to walk me down the aisle on my wedding day. I had obviously assumed that he would be the one to do that, but when I called him to formally ask the day before, he told me he needed time to think about it, which was suspicious. The next day, he called to decline, and when I asked why, since I was obviously perplexed, his reason blew my mind. He told me that Katie had cremated her cat a few weeks ago and now wanted to go to Hawaii to scatter his ashes on the beach. A couple of years back, she and a bunch of her friends had gone on a road trip to Hawaii, and she had taken her cat with her. Apparently, she had many good memories of that place, and it was special to her. The day of my wedding was exactly 1 month after her cat had passed away, so she wanted to scatter the ashes on my wedding day. Not only did my dad decline to walk me down the aisle, but he also told me he wouldn't be able to attend my wedding at all. He said he was really sorry and wanted to make it up to me later, but he had to go with Katie since this was the first time in weeks she had expressed wanting to do something or leave the house. She specifically requested that my dad accompany her because she wanted someone to be there for emotional support. I was extremely pissed off when he told me this, but I tried to stay calm. I suggested maybe a friend could go with her, or she could do it at least a day after my wedding so that he could attend. I wanted at least one parent to be present at my wedding.